Hi everyone, welcome to the Central Connecticut Intergroup Speaker Meeting. My name is Lisa and I'm an alcoholic. This is a special edition. Issa is going to share her experience, strength, and hope.
My name's Issa and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi Issa.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. My sobriety date is June 3rd of 2019. I have a sponsor, I am a sponsor. I'm involved in district level service as well as service with the NECYPAA committee. I was born an alcoholic. I believe that I was born an alcoholic, and what that looked like for me was, from a very young age, this desire, need for more, and the presence of this God-shaped hole that we talk about in AA inside of my heart. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know why I felt like I needed more. I had this moment that kind of like collectively encapsulates it all, where I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I was sitting in my room after a day of school and ballet. I was a ballerina, and I looked out my window and I was just looking out into my backyard and going, is this all there is to life? Like, I go to school, I come home, I dance, I go to bed. Like, there's got to be something else. And I had friends, I had a lovely family. I had all these things that were given to me, gifts from my higher power, and I still felt like there was something huge missing. And I couldn't figure out what that was, and I wasn't happy despite all these things. That's what it was for me, right? And as I got older, I started to find these things that would kind of make me feel like that more was full. Like, I felt full, and I felt like, oh, this is what was missing, right? And at first it was escaping into books, and then it was outside issues with food and other obsessive compulsive situations, and then it was making people my higher power and romantic partners my higher power, and then eventually it was alcohol. And when I found alcohol, after trying all these different things to feel better and to feel full and feel human and to feel not insecure, I found that alcohol worked the best. And so I ran with that. I got sober at 16. I didn't drink and use substances for very long, but they say in the big book that for women it sometimes is a little bit quicker, and I found that to be very true for myself. And, you know, within a year and a half, I was in places I shouldn't be in, with people I shouldn't be in that were far older than me, right? I was crying every night. I was engaging in a lot of self-destructive and alcoholic behaviors that didn't involve drugs and alcohol. And I just didn't know how to exist and how to live. I didn't really know if I wanted to live at that point. And thank God my mom was in AA. She was in recovery, so she sent me to a treatment facility, and from there eventually I got it. I know this is like a shorter, more brief synopsis, but you know, I didn't want to get sober. I just didn't want to die. I wanted to be able to drink like other people, and I couldn't admit to myself that that was something that I could do because I was an alcoholic, and it took me a very, very long time to do step one. I would say like 7 months of pain, and my first 7 months of sobriety were not this pink cloud. It was black and gray and miserable, and I would just write in my journal, and I would cry and listen to Lana Del Rey and cry, just like crying. Like I couldn't stop crying, and like that was my experience. And eventually I got a sponsor because I had to, because the treatment facility I was at was like, you can't get a flip phone if you don't get a sponsor, and I was like, okay. So I did that, and somehow through osmosis and through hearing everybody speak in meetings, like I kind of came to understand, like, oh yeah, okay. And I think being a younger person too, and I'll get into that later on in this segment, where like my bottom looked different than other people's bottoms, right? Like I never lost a house, I never lost a car, I never lost a kid. I didn't have that experience, and so for so long I felt like an imposter in AA, and I felt like I didn't belong here because I didn't have the experience that you had, and I wasn't a real alcoholic, and I didn't suffer enough, and like, those are all the lies that my alcoholism told me, and it took a lot to push through that to get to where I am today and to understand that I am an alcoholic and do step one. But I kept doing it. Moved, started school, made some poor choices, made some decent ones, and, you know, just didn't pick up a drink. And now 7 years later, I'm involved with service. I love AA. AA saved my life. I've seen it save other people's lives, my family, and I'm excited to be here today to talk more about NECYPAA and the young people's population in AA, because that's like specifically is what really scooped me up, brought me in, and made me feel included, made me feel like my voice is able to be heard in AA.
Thank you.
Caitlin, alcoholic.
Caitlin.
My sobriety date is January 31st, 2014. Drink and drug for as long as I can remember. I came from a family where that was very normal, and we did it together. I did that with relatives, and so that's just what life looked like for me. I had a lot of rock bottoms out there. I did almost lose a child. I did almost lose my life. I am very grateful that I did not go to prison. And I'm grateful to be alive. I'm great. I almost died a couple of times, and I'm really grateful to be alive. I was so grateful now to be so sick and suffering out there that I had just hit that wall, that I had drank and drugged for as long as my little life could contain it, from, you know, pretty much 14, 15 to 21 years old. I just hit my alcoholism as hard as I could until life said, you're done, or you're going to go to jail, or you're going to die, and you're gonna lose your kid, and you're gonna be homeless, and all of these horrible things. And I had a lot of fear in me, and I just had no idea. I had no idea what life was gonna look like on the other side of this. But I even told myself too, like, I'm willing to, I was so desperate that I was willing to sign up for a life that I was convinced I would never have fun again, that would just be boring forever. I had no idea what sobriety meant or looked like in application in the physical world. I didn't see it growing up, and I had no idea what that meant, but I knew that I couldn't go on this way in any means. So I went to treatment, and I got sober, and I worked a program, and I got involved with NECYPAA service, and I learned how to be a functioning human being. I learned how to be a parent. I learned how to be a woman in the world. I learned how to rely on my higher power for things that I'm never truly alone. And that's my favorite thing I've learned in these rooms, is that, like, I can get a sponsor, I can get a network and a fellowship, I can have all these women, but at the end of the day, they don't come home with me. And they might be busy and they might not pick up the phone. I need them. But my higher power does come home with me. My higher power does always have time for me. My higher power is always witnessing what I'm experiencing. And for me, for this alcoholic, that's what opened my door to having a higher power in these rooms. Was I felt so harmed by the world. I needed to believe that a power greater than myself, one, could love me unconditionally, and two, was witnessing what was happening to me in this world, because I knew what I was doing to the world. But what brought me comfort and love that AA gave me, that gift of my higher power, was it came home with me. It saw my entire life as the world was giving it to me as well. Because life was hard out there. I'm really grateful that I got to find, like, a safe space in these rooms. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Meadow?
My name is Meadow. I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Meadow.
My journey is very cut and dry from a lot of the college age stories that I come to find. I grew up, quote unquote, normal, happy family. We all didn't talk about anything at all. If something happened, it was quickly brushed off, and I didn't have that intimate relationship with my parents, with my siblings, and that followed me for years because I didn't know how to talk to people. And so I was going through life trying to find my people, and find a place where I could genuinely feel connected. I just didn't know how to find that life for myself. By nature, I'm a perfectionist. Everything needs to be perfect. School was always really easy. I never really tried. All of this led me to have a bit of an ego. I thought that I had to be perfect. And I thought that everything was, to some degree, controllable. The reason why things weren't working out for other people is because they weren't putting in as much effort as I was, or they weren't thinking about it the right way. I grew up on the age of the internet. I had a bunch of friends that I met through video games, and we'd call at the time. They were from different parts of Canada, California, Virginia, that type of thing. We would all meet up, and this was my first kind of experience with alcoholism. Was my dad with all of these people, all of the parents that were there. So we were all like 16, 17. They were 16, 17. I was more like 15, 14. He drank. They all drank. Some of the parents got kicked out of the hotel while me and all my friends slept, and we're just kind of like, what is actually going on? And that kind of started a really fun progression of, I would continue to see those friends a lot, and that time was our that when we'd see each other once a year, that weekend was our weekend where we were just not going to stop drinking at all. COVID happened, kind of distanced ourselves a bit. I had started college, and throughout my entire life, I was always I was friends with people older than me by a good bit. My senior year of high school, a lot of my friends were seniors in college. So I would go to bars, I would go to wherever, and if you're the one person out of a group of people who's underage, they're not going to question it. I would end up in really interesting, really not great situations from a very young age. And going to college, I was still kind of craving that connection. I ended up joining a sorority, and people use that as just an excuse to feed me alcohol. It was normal to come home on a random Tuesday, Wednesday, and just be passed out on the couch of the sorority house and not remember it. It was my senior year of college I got my DUI. And so I ended up, that was when I was first introduced to recovery, but I wasn't ready. I had just about turned 21. I was 2 months off of shy of 21 when I got the DUI. And I was just not ready to be sober. It didn't seem like an option to me. This was during COVID as well, so everything was online. And if you're forced to do a recovery program online and you don't want to be sober, it's not very easy to be held to strict accountability. Things like drug tests, alcohol tests, or breathalyzers, these things they didn't use because we were all on Zoom. So I would get drunk during my court-mandated meetings, and generally just go in and out and not tell anyone about what I did. For the longest time, nobody knew that part of my life because that wasn't part of my story. I had all these big accomplishments that I held close. Eventually, I couldn't keep up the act anymore. I was tired of trying to be perfect, and me trying to be perfect always led to me at the end of the night laying in bed, not able to fall asleep because I would only think about what the different interactions, how they should have gone. If everything went according to the script in my head, or how differently other people could have handled things. Basically everything but what my own internal problems might be. So I ended up going back to that, back out with all those friends I met online, and they brought me we all went and had a good time. I was really in depth in my alcoholism at this point, and they weren't. They had grown up, and I didn't. And it was at that point where I thought I was going to lose all of those friends that I'd had for 10 years or so, that I was like, okay, I need to do something about this. So I swore to them, I'm going to get help, I'm going to get treatment. And a week later, I was still drinking a lot. I had just graduated with my master's degree, and I had been fired from my job. So I had literally nothing anymore, and continued drinking. And it was about maybe a couple days of that where eventually I was like, I got it. I told these people that I'd do something. So I might as well make good on that and see if I can improve my life. Went off to treatment, came into the program, and yeah, I was very quickly swept up in young people's activities and young people's conventions. Specifically, NECYPAA was the one that kind of started me out. Not the reason I'm here, but that's what kind of started me off. And then I would go to these events, and there was this group of people. They were really weird. Just generally awkward. They'd all be in like the corner, just kind of chatting with themselves. I started hanging around with those guys, and they told me they were a part of this little group called NECYPAA, a bid for NECYPAA, Connecticut. And I was like, I have no idea what that means. It was a group of individuals who were trying to basically pitch for NECYPAA to come to Connecticut. At this point, it was in New Hampshire. They had it in Manchester, New Hampshire that year. They were preparing this whole book of how the convention would go if it were to come to Connecticut. I ended up getting under their wing and going to their events and realizing, wow, I don't have to be perfect. I can be awkward, I can be silly, I can be weird, and people can love me for that. We ended up winning the bid, so NECYPAA 2027, technically, is going to be in Hartford, Connecticut. It's one of those things that changes your life for the better. My sobriety date is May 23rd, 2025, so I'm a lot more newly sober than a lot of the people on this committee, but it's provided me an opportunity to genuinely connect with a lot of these people who otherwise I would have been way too awkward to try and talk to at all.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thank you, all three of you, thank you. We're here to talk about NECYPAA, and two of you mentioned YPAA.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's Young People in Alcoholics Anonymous.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so let's just put that up because abbreviations, you never know what they actually mean. What is NECYPAA?
NECYPAA, Northeastern Convention for Young People Today. We used to be New England, now we're Northeastern. We've expanded.
Because you picked up like Maryland.
Yeah, New Jersey.
So you're the same as the
Maryland.
Northeast Regional Delegates now.
Correct.
Have each of you held positions on NECYPAA, and if so, like what have you done? And how, I can tell you how service has transferred in my life. Like my job is directly related to a service job I had. How has that helped you in your sobriety and your life?
Yeah, so you're asking, like, what service do I do on NECYPAA and how it's impacted my life? I'm Issa Alcoholic. I am the co-program chair for NECYPAA. Our committee is huge. We have a ton of open positions that are being filled by members of Alcoholics Anonymous right now. And so what I'm involved with doing is constructing the program for the convention. Just a little bit more about NECYPAA, just because people might be like, what's a convention of AA? What does that even look like? It's essentially going to be a 3 to 4 day event. It's at a hotel, and throughout the day, the program, which is what I'm involved with creating, consists of panels, so like meetings about specific topics in AA, like parenting in AA, or, going back to school in AA, topic-specific kind of meetings with speakers. There's a main meeting at the end of each night. There's going to be hopefully some Spanish programming, ASL interpretation, and there's always some sort of entertainment like dances, raves, events, comedy shows, for example, just like fun activities, right? Workshops with the grapevine, stuff like that. And it's just 4 days of all that. So it's pretty fun, very educational, very informative, and just like a really lovely way to fellowship with other people who are young or young at heart. So yeah, me and my program chair have been developing this program throughout the last 6 months. It's done everything. I mean, I think young people's, this doesn't relate to this, so I'm not going to talk about it right now, but like young people's conventions and NECYPAA specifically completely altered the trajectory of my recovery. I had a spiritual experience at my first NECYPAA. I didn't know it existed. I was really mad that nobody told me about it, and I still have a resentment that I'm holding on to this day, because I was like, I got sober at 16 and nobody told me this was here. And I was like enraged because it changed my life, and I started becoming more interested in service. I was somebody who, when I got sober, was like, I'm never going to be GSR or DCM, or like, I just going to do the steps. Like, I don't know, the traditions aren't important. Like, I don't care. I was 16, but I just never had any interest in traditions, concepts, service, at any. Like, I didn't care how AA worked. I just cared that it worked for me, and that's it. And YPAA and People AA really changed that because it was an approachable way to start learning. It was a fun environment to start learning in, and I looked up to people who were young, who were holding, area positions, and who were doing really cool service stuff. And through NECYPAA specifically, I was kind of voluntold to join the committee because they were like, you go to all these conventions anyway, so why aren't you doing it? And I was like, resentment. Decided to join, and like since then it's just been like a lot of us have service sponsors, and I've picked up a service sponsor. Picked up is not a great way to say that, but I've gotten a service sponsor, and we're going through the traditions and learning about the concepts, and it's so wonderful and applicable to daily life, especially in like a job environment, which, you know, I got my first job in sobriety. I've had to learn how to do the whole job thing sober. And it's just so helpful to have, like, you know, the steps is like a design for living, the traditions is like a design of how to work with others, essentially, which is like something I'm not great at inherently as an alcoholic. So yeah, it's really helped with like my family relationships, with my job, with our committee. Groups of alcoholics together can be very tumultuous, and there can be disagreements, and we all don't agree, but you know, through like my service sponsor and the traditions and like being of service, I've really been able to approach things with unity in mind, and that's also been a cool growth for me.
Can I ask, young people in AA, is there an age?
Young
What
or
does
young
that
at
mean?
heart?
Young at heart.
Young is a feeling.
Young is.
When I was
I'm old.
maybe 30 and they asked me to go to a young people's thing, and I'm like, I'm 30. I can't go to a young people's thing. So young at heart, I think maybe I need to talk that a little more. Service. How was like?
Meadow alcoholic.
Meadow.
I am the current co-chair for NECYPAA. Started out as the events chair for the bid, ended up hosting a few events the later half. Then I moved into the position of secretary, established some good systems, did a lot of work that would be needed to kind of get us going on the right foot. When our previous co-chair stepped down, I was able to step up, and people thought that I'd be pretty decent at it seems. I've always kind of been involved in leadership development. It has been a new experience of it's not my will. And I might think that something will go great if it's done a certain way, but that's not always what everyone else thinks. When I would do leadership work for, say, a job or something like that, I would have some level of power, authority to be actually able to point things in a certain direction. But here there are just so many directions and so many different ways to do things that it really, it's not up to me. And realistically, it's never been up to me. Hearing the different perspectives vastly can change not only the way that the convention is run, the convention is supported, but as well just the way that I choose to interact with other people and take those lessons that I've learned. Every committee member, every minor disagreement that we've ever had, and apply those in my world outside of AA. So it's been a great privilege to be able to serve, and I look forward to continuing.
Thank you. How do we register to go to the convention, or how do we get more information about getting to the convention?
NECYPAA 36, there is NECYPAACT.com. We have a beautiful website. There we take the registrations. Al-Anon participation is also welcome. We have a scholarship fund, because not everyone can afford what is right now a $40 convention ticket. We make it as accessible as we can to everyone in every single way that we can. There is also an Instagram, and that is NECYPAA, NECYPAA 36, I believe.
You can go at the
You
door.
can get to the door, okay.
Yeah. The important thing is for us, just so people understand, like, we are fully self-supporting, and throughout the year, the way that we make our money for this convention is through pre-registration, scholarships, buying merch. We have merch available on our website and at the area of events we're at.
Attending our events.
Yes, attending our events. There's, you know, suggested contributions at our events, but that's how we make our money to put on the thing, and that goes for not just like DJ and lights, but also to provide interpretation for the Spanish-speaking community and to, you know, bring speakers in. Like, it's not just for the fun stuff, it's for, you know, like the accessibility. So as program, like that's something I'm very adamant about, where you can come to the door, but if you have the funds, it's always important, you know. That's how we're kind of doing all this.
And that's my job as events chair. I host all these events throughout the year, promoting the conference and trying to help us continue to be self-supporting to go to the conference.
Perfect.
Mhm.
$45 is registration right now,
40 right now.
40 right now,
Yeah.
and that pays for all 4 days.
Correct.
So I think that's a really good point to bring up. Like, it's
Yes.
not like if you go every day, you're paying every day. It's
Yes.
$45
Mhm.
for the 4 days.
40.
40.
And it will
40.
go up at
40.
some point, so
Yes.
40 for now. Well, you
And it will go up, so get your registration in.
Yeah.
I want to thank you ladies so very much for coming and sharing with us. And it's so good to see young people in Alcoholics Anonymous that are just doing such great things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.